What is the stupidest thing you've heard someone say that they were 100% serious about? If Earth is spinning, then why my front door is always facing east? Some random girl on the elevator pointed out how ridiculous it is that we had a button for the floor we were already on. People who build are so stupid, she said with 100% seriousness. In college, my teaching assistant in my dinosaurs class insisted that roadrunners weren't real and laughed at me for suggesting it as an answer for a bird that runs fast. But the real dummy was me because I've seen one in real life and I still said, oh okay. I was stationed in Germany in the late 80s 90s. Every Thanksgiving multiple dudes would be perplexed as to why the Germans didn't celebrate. A dude once told me he was excited to celebrate the 4th with the Germans and asked if they did fireworks. I love you my brothers, but some of you are dumb. How can Hawaii and Alaska have such different temperatures when they are right next to each other on the map? Blueberry muffins you buy pre-made don't have any blueberries in them. Blueberries cost too much. They dye bees blue because they have the same texture and use them. He has explained it to multiple people multiple times. Yeah bro, it says carbonated because they removed the carbs while standing in line at a drugstore. Best eavesdrop of my life. I knew that from the get-go, then proceeded to argue that it was definitely gecko and not get-go. PS I now only say from the get-go because that shit's hilarious. I was on a date at an art museum. The painting tag said who it was made by the title and made Circe 1600 and she said, do you think the earth was even around back then? You just never really know. Can you email me back the PDF I emailed you? It's my only copy. At one of my first jobs as a graphic designer, a client called me into his office and pulled up a photo he took. He then asked me if I could turn it around. No, not rotate it, but turn the viewpoint around. He wanted to see what was behind the camera when he originally took the photo. God, I have so many stories from that job. That ceiling fan dust was the cause of cancer. Like cancer actually did not exist until ceiling fans collected dust and it fell off. I don't have an email. I have a Gmail. Call center work. Maybe too obscure but anyway, I was the radiation safety office for our lab group many years ago and was telling one of our more truly brilliant, not being sarcastic, PhDs, that his badge came up hot, meaning his technique was bad and he was going to have to be retrained and he said, it doesn't affect me, I'm done having my children. Like being careless with radioactive isotopes can only affect your gonads and not, IDK, give you effing cancer. Oh, I don't know how you can stand to fly when there's a 50% chance the plane will crash. Me. Blank stare. Oh, you know, because either it crashes or it doesn't 50-50. Edit. Please stop replying to tell me she was joking and I just didn't get it. It's lovely that you all think people this dumb don't exist, but I assure you they do. My sister's friend after meeting my fiancé for the first time. Where is she from? Me. She was born here in the States but she's Cambodian. Oh my god. You can't be with her, they eat people. Me. Long blank stare. I think you're thinking of cannibals. Long blank stare. What's the difference? Same woman was shocked to find out we believed in space. As in the planets and stars and galaxies. She thought half the sky was light and half the sky was dark and the planets spinning inside the atmosphere is why we had night and day and that there was nothing else out there. By far the dumbest person I've ever met. I have so many more stories about her. How do we know it wasn't just ostriches on the radar that triggered Pearl Harbor? My dude. What? I work in construction, and my rigger told me he doesn't believe in gravity, with 100% seriousness, mind you. His job is to rig tens of thousands of pounds of steel, so it doesn't fall when moving it with a crane. At age 27, my friend said that he had gotten into a fight with his girlfriend because he knew that his parents didn't have to have sex to conceive him. His mom got pregnant with him because they got married. Someone I know argued with me that I do not live anywhere near Canada. He got pretty nasty about it too. When I showed him proof he said, well I only know Texas. I live right outside of Detroit, Michigan. Closer to Canada than I am to any other state. I have also had a few people argue with me that I do not live in the Eastern time zone. I guess they know better than someone who actually live here. I was going 30 in a 30. Police officer pulled me over and claimed I was going 50. The dashcam footage of the police officer showed that the officer was going 40 to close the distance and pull me over. Some genius on Facebook said, if you were go 30, then why did the officer have to go 40 to catch up? I'm like, if by some bizarre circumstance that you're actually being serious here, you have to go faster than whatever it is you're following, in order to catch up. Once had someone try to sell me the theory that the moon is a hologram made by the government to trick people. A guide dog's job is to drive the car for the blind person. 20 years later and she'll still argue the point. Got into an argument with a guy that thought limes were unripe lemons. He had so much conviction that by the end I was beginning to question my own knowledge. That's how they get ya. I work for a cell phone company and someone seriously thought that 5G towers were causing and distributing COVID. I was extremely surprised that, once I explained cell phone towers and creating extremely specific biological matter and distributing them through radio waves to your face, they actually understood how crazy that sounded. Back during the mosque shooting in New Zealand, and the government there were trying to ban guns, my co-worker said that they can't do that since it violates the American Second Amendment. When I was a kid, and on and off when I was older, until after it was decommissioned, my dad worked at a nuclear power plant. I was mentioning this to a college-aged co-worker at one point. I think I was telling a story about take your daughter to work day, or something, and co-worker stops me. Wait, those are really real. I stopped talking, at a loss for words. I then had her repeat what she wanted to know. Nuclear power plants are actually real things? I thought they were made up for like, The Simpsons. A professor in college refused to give back our tests because you should know what you did wrong. You got covered because you aren't spiritually fit, and therefore attract negative things. That's why I'll never get it. I'm spiritually fit. This person also refuses to get COVID tests when they are sick. Her, where are you from? Me, I was born in Athens, Greece. Her, blank look. Really? Me, yes. Why? Her, I thought Greece was a myth like Hercules. Truth story. They didn't think dinosaurs were actually real, just a tale legend like dragons and unicorns. I thought they were making a joke for a moment. A guy I work with said that a football referee runs over the distance of a marathon during a game. I pointed out that a football game was only 90 minutes long and that the marathon record was just over 2 hours, so that would be impossible. He said it was possible, because a football referee changes direction a lot during a game, and it all adds up. For me, sobriety looks like only having 2 drinks a day. My sister when she started drinking again. You have to understand, I'm not a vibrational match for car accidents, so we'll be safer if I drive. A building on our street was set to be torn down, and then wasn't. My neighbor texted me to ask what I thought. I responded, maybe they weren't able to, and she asked if I thought that was because of ghosts. I said, no, probably permits. I once had a co-worker who believed with all sincerity that twins could only be conceived through sex. Them, is the shredded beef, pork? Me, no, the shredded pork is pork. 2 things, actually. The female body can reject the results of ape, so they don't have to worry about getting pregnant. Also, men can control their erections. That bleach is the cure for AIDS. We were children at the time, but still. Years ago I was in a grocery store with my dad, who is a very loud and TPC, anti-woke type. We were next to one of those waist-high chest freezers and my dad got his cart slightly stuck on one of the bumper rails for a second. He starts going off about how dumb it is that dumb liberals make stores put in these stupid poles around the freezers just so midgets can stand on them to look in the freezer. Me and my sister both stared at him for what felt like a solid minute before realizing he was dead ass serious before explaining that the rails were actually to prevent people ramming their carts into the freezer, and in fact had nothing to do with little people. We still make fun of him for the midget pole, to this day. Knew a grown woman with 2 kids who absolutely believed that you burn 2000 calories when you orgasm. She would fight you over this. Confession. It was me. When I was 18, my brother introduced me to his girlfriend who was from New Zealand. I told her that her English was very good. Only the biological mother's breast milk is safe for her baby. If you give that milk to a different child it has no nutritional benefit. Some guy. It was me, at the dispensary for the first time, asking if their products would make me test positive for a drug test. I could just tell by the bud tender's face that he was in the midst of being asked the dumbest question of his life. I have lupus and fibromyalgia, so without having any experience with cannabis, I decided to try it out in lieu of being sent to the pain clinic. A 30-year-old satellite engineer I knew confidently said that women can only get pregnant if they orgasm during the sexual encounter. Bombastic side eye. If I don't finish all my eggs within 2 weeks I throw them out. I don't want the light in the fridge to make them hatch, you know those eggs aren't fertilized right? And also the light goes off when you close the door. Huh. I just finished watching an 8-part series on the Civil War. It wasn't about slavery. The North was just jealous of the South's productivity and economic power. Coming from my Mormon family, that Trump is the chosen one. Ex-Mormon here. The Book of Mormon teaches about false prophets and antichrists, and despite spending a lifetime studying this crap, they don't see it. I pieced out a chicken for frying, and threw spine and other trimmings in a pot with water to boil up for broth. Hubby blew a gasket, insisting we couldn't possibly eat that because there'd been raw chicken in the pot. Yes, it was raw, but it's cooked with the water to become broth. Took a solid 10 minutes of arguing with him that I wasn't going to give us food poisoning by cooking a chicken carcass to make broth. I'd been making chicken broth this way for a decade by that time, but it was the first time he'd observed me doing so. During a work meeting about counterfeit money, one of my co-workers said she sometimes saw Puerto Rican coins in the cash drawer. Our place of work is in the US. It got quiet and you could hear crickets. Our area manager was baffled and turned to her before saying, Puerto Rico is the US territory, they use the same money. My conspiracy theorist family who is convinced the government sank the Titanic and the Titan submersible imploded because the government didn't want them to see the proof on the Titanic. Told them that this isn't the first trip to the Titanic. Plenty of other voyages on submersibles have seen it before, every inch. They had nothing to say after that. Old roommate said that when the weather app says 50% rain, then that meant half of all the rain in the sky is going to fall. Same for all percentages. 80% meant 80% of all the rain possible would fall. 100% rain? Yup, every single last drop of rain is coming down today. So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way, and I think you said you're going to test that, too. It sounds interesting. And then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that? By injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets in the lungs, and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it would be interesting to check that. On a field trip to Independence Hall in Philly, and the guide is explaining how the crew kept the windows closed in the summer heat while drafting the Constitution to stop people from listening in, and the guide mentions how hot it was inside, especially in their outfits at the time. This girl in my class proceeds to ask, why didn't they turn the air conditioner on? I will forever remember the mortified look on our teacher's face as we all died laughing. Background: a lady who worked at a place I used to would buy and try to resell stuff from stores at work with flyers, on the internet, etc. Stuff like shampoo, deodorant, etc. I heard her say this. I pay $2 and I sell it for $1.50 and I make 50 cents. My best friend's sister once spent an hour trying to convince me that marshmallows grew on trees. Like a fruit. On the way to New York City with a friend. She said, "OMG, I can't wait to see the Eiffel Tower. I'm so excited." My old barber, whilst pregnant with her first child, said it's stupid that parents don't use the anatomical name for genitalia. Stop calling it hoo-ha or hoo-hoo. Just call it a fussy. At my previous job we were discussing food to get for a holiday since we had many Muslim employees and they have to eat halal. So we were discussing things without pork. My co-worker says, "What is pork though? Is pork chicken?" Had to try explain to a colleague years ago that 7 days in a week was an invention people made up. It wasn't something we discovered. Co-worker truly believes that aliens exist on Earth but only show themselves if you truly believe in them. Like Santa Claus, if you don't believe in them, you won't see them. They watch some documentary on Netflix, and nothing will convince them otherwise now. A woman I worked with a few years ago went on a diet, and she was complaining in the break room about not being able to find whole wheat rice anywhere. I tried several times to say, "Whole grain?" but she was adamant that she needed whole wheat rice.